And we are live once again from the wastelands of the internet. I've come with Batman to bring you news of the week, news of the day, news that you probably never wanted to even hear. How about you?
Some news that he made up because he was bored.
If I could make up some of this news, I really wish I could make up some of this stuff. I really do. I see you in the chat, Mr. Barkley. Welcome. Shall we go on? Well, let's get right into it. We got a lot of stories.
Unfortunately, no, Matt, just news.
Yep. A clash in the skies. Russian fighter jet fired 2 missiles at UK spy plane to shoot it down after terrifying near miss over the Black Sea. Okay, so you had a near miss, and then you tried to shoot the plane down.
Hold on. If it had been a British fighter plane on a Russian spy plane, you can bet your ass there would be pieces of Russian spy plane over the landscape.
The pilot of an Su-27 fighter jet fired 2 missiles at a British jet last September after he thought he had permission. It has emerged. And you're trying to shoot down, what is this, like an RC-3 or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
RC-135. This is a big jet. It's not fast. It's not slow. It's a standard airborne warning platform.
Yep.
Okay. And a Russian jet fired 2 missiles at it and missed.
Wingman swears at his comrade and tells him to stop. Yeah. Russian HQ tells pilot that he's going to have to pay for those missiles.
At the time, Defense Secretary Ben Wallace said that an unarmed RAF rivet joint was on routine patrol in international airspace when it was tailed by 2 Russian Su-27 fighter jets. During the 90-minute interaction, one of the jets fired 2 missiles near the RAF plane. The first one missed the target rather than malfunctioning. Moscow had blamed the missile launch on a technical malfunction. Yeah, the pilot said, "Die!"
Was it Slim Pickens or Red Buttons in Doctor Strangelove?
That's Slim Pickens.
Yeah. We're going to have to watch out for him. Somebody looking like him sitting on a fucking nuke. Because that's where we're headed.
But now 3 senior Western defense sources have told the BBC that the Russian communications intercepted by the RAF plane revealed that there was a different version. Okay. Now.
There always is.
All right. They revealed that there was a different version. Well, here's the first thing I want to say. All right.
Hold on, before you go on.
Sure.
Yeah, there was confusion over whether he got the green light or not, right? There's a simple explanation for that. They're speaking Russian. Russian is a terrible language. They should be speaking English, then they'd understand each other.
I don't think it's quite like that, Batman. But I will say this. These platforms, these surveillance platforms, are not without certain defense systems. Okay? And they didn't say that those defense systems were deployed or not deployed. I guarantee you they were deployed.
Okay. No, because if they were deployed, we wouldn't have any Russian fighter planes.
No. When I say that they have defense systems, they're not offensive.
You mean anti-missile defense systems?
Correct. And that.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Matt.
No, they are speaking of just drunk. I don't think it's quite like that, but it shows you that it's a demonstration of the difference in technology between the Western groups and what the Russians have had. And the Russians are very they're about 20 years behind. Okay, so is China. For those people who don't understand, China's about 10 to 20 years
Chinese
behind.
the Chinese military is 20 years behind. The Chinese people, like their culture
Hmm.
and their society, the civilian side of China, about 40 years behind.
Overall, right? Obviously, they have a huge
Uh,
disparity.
culturally, culturally, they're about 120 years behind.
Well, that's a separate issue. We're not going to talk about culture because cultures are cultures, all right? They change and they shift as things
Not
surround them.
Chinese.
No,
The
Chinese
Chinese
culture has
culture
changed.
only superficially.
There are elements that still remain of the 12th century. I'm not going to deny that. That's true.
Chinese culture has only changed superficially. I mean, uh, yeah, pre-China, Imperial China, China was a bunch of countries that were basically ruled over by despotic leaders, right?
That's true.
Then it became Imperial China, which was one country ruled over by despotic leaders.
True.
Then they had a revolution, and they became the Chinese Republic, right? Which was ruled over by despotic president. Then they had another revolution and became
No,
the
no, no. The
Chinese
rev.
communist.
Okay, after the
Then it became a
fall of
communist China,
yeah, well, after the fall of
right?
imperial, no, not exactly. After the fall of imperial China, all right. What you had was a return to the warlord system. Okay,
Yeah, but officially they had a republic.
not really, but they had Chiang Kai Shek was the leader warlord, and he was technically he claimed that he was a republic,
Yeah, it was exactly. He was exactly the same as the fucking emperor, though, wasn't he?
he,
And now
a
you've got
weakened emperor, but he was really more of a warlord. But you are correct. All right,
yeah,
it
and
went
then
back to
now
that
you've
type
got
of system.
the Chinese Communist Party, which is basically the head of the Chinese Communist Party is exactly the same as the fucking emperor.
Yes,
Nothing's changed in China apart from the name that they give the government.
to a large extent, that's true. It's sad, but to a large extent, it's true. And why are we talking about China? Because China's next on the list. All right, PLA latest air and sea trials near Taiwan could signal a surprise attack strategy.
Yes,
Yeah, they
the People's
they
Republic Army.
they have tracked 143 warplanes and 56 warships surrounding the island in an encirclement patrol. Okay. Formosa
Yeah, they're basically
is
blockading it.
a Formosa is a an island, obviously. All right. The People's Liberation Army has mobilized aircraft from different theater commands to take part in
Told you,
island encirclement patrol near Taiwan,
no
which
man, I
experts
told
said
you.
could signal a new
It's
strategy to prepare for regional military conflicts. Aircraft drills coincided with joint sea and air training conducted by the PLA's Shandong aircraft carrier in the Western Pacific since early this week, according to early reports that involved 42 naval ships from the Eastern and Southern Theater Commands. Okay.
I've told you, Nomad. It's the People's Republican Army.
Hey, Sean, welcome. It's not it's not the People's Republican Army. Let's be honest about something. First of all, the Shandong aircraft carrier has
Is
issues.
crap.
It has a lot of issues.
Leaks.
Okay, if
It's slow.
if the Chinese had attempt to take Taiwan, that aircraft carrier's life expectancy is about 50 to 60 seconds.
Nomad,
Okay, I'm just putting it out there.
you know the USS Nimitz.
Yes.
The one that was it was a pride and joy of the United States Navy in the late 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Aircraft.
Yes,
It, that's more advanced than the Shandong.
it is.
Hell, those ones that were getting bombed out of existence by Japanese pilots who couldn't fly during World War II, they were better than the Shandong.
Not quite. All right, but there are advantages. The thing is in order to to effectively run a program with aircraft carriers, you've constantly got to have the aircraft carriers out, and you're constantly doing things with them. China
Yep.
has yet to get to that kind of an operational tempo in order to establish a good working.
I have a hypothesis about places like China and India and places like that.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it's been we've seen it there when they come over here. They excel at academics, technology, and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Yet the countries they come from, left to their own devices, tend to be technologically backward. I think it's not because of the intelligence of the people involved; it's the culture they come from, which is inhibitive of creative thought
It is. I would agree with that
and
to a large
innovation.
extent. Um, it is a pro. It is a problem where, and China's always had this problem. China, even back in the 12th century, for crying out loud, had some phenomenal, all right,
They
advances
invented
in
gunpowder. What are the
in technology, that they never did anything with it on any kind of
yeah
scale because they just couldn't let the rest of the populace go. All right, there were some. I'm not. I will never say that that any nation or any group of people doesn't have brilliant, all right, people in it. The problem is do you maximize everyone's potential? Do we allow people to maximize their own potential? And that's the key. Is people have to maximize their own potential. The reality is not
yeah
everyone will maximize their own potential. That's very true. Okay, but
oh
people
Sean
are selfish to the extent that they'll try to maximize themselves generally.
yep
Okay, in how they see what's best for themselves, and what they see for that's best for themselves. This is contrary to what the Marxists have, because the Marxists only see dollar signs to people. Okay, and that's why they constantly fail, because they widget down that everyone is exactly the same, and therefore they all want the same things, and therefore you can put a dollar sign against them. They're not. That's not how people are. There are plenty of people who could make a hell of a lot more money if they so desired to do it in a lot of different arenas that don't do it. And the reason they don't do it is because they have no desire to do that. It's not the way they want to live their lives. They don't see that as maximizing their human potential. And it takes a broad scale of things to get technology where
yep
we're at today. Sure, you can
oh
focus on military progress all you want, but when military progress depends upon the progress of the people's in the economic
the thing
progress
is it's
and so forth.
interdependent.
Right. And
Military progress spurs civil progress, which spurs military progress.
right. It's all a working philosophy.
Yeah.
And then
Well, and Sean's opened up an interesting concept here with his comment about wait till China attacks Taiwan and attack China, since some of its military will be away and split and have split their attack and defense. You think, knowing Russia's history with China, they're in alliance with China right now, right?
kind of, yeah.
China goes for Taiwan. The rest of the world's going to jump on China, right?
Yes.
Is it me, or do you think Putin would take that as a golden opportunity to bite China in the ass?
Definitely. All right. Well, it kind of depends on the. I will say this: it depends on the situation in the Ukraine.
Hmm.
All right, and I'm not trying to worry anybody, but the reality is, while Putin is busy with the Ukraine, okay, China has a much larger hand that they can play. They got a lot more
Hmm.
leeway, all right, in dealing with the Russians,
Or as the
right?
Chinese would call it, relay.
Well, whatever. Right.
Sorry,
The
relay.
the uh, the Russians, if the Ukraine has already been settled, would definitely join the world community to condemn China and actually provide military support, all right, to put China down. In fact, there's several things that they would love to take back from China. all right,
Oh yeah.
and put the screws to them. So yeah, Russia has it, and even with the Ukraine going on, one thing that hasn't happened, and people have noticed this, is while there's been some movement of military units east, all right, into the Ukraine, there hasn't been a large contingent. They still got
Hmm.
a massive force against the Chinese border. That has not
Well, yeah,
lifted.
yeah, because if they did lift that, the Russian border would get further and further westward.
Yeah, that's what they were worried about it. So
Yeah, good right to be as well.
I don't disagree.
But thing I say this constantly about Putin, and I'll keep saying it until I'm proven wrong, and I haven't been yet. Putin is only concerned with the welfare of Russia.
Yes,
And really, he is concerned with the welfare of Russia
as
and
he
the
sees
people
it.
who live there.
As he sees it, yes, I agree with you.
Yep.
He in his mind, he's a Russian patriot. From Seoul, South Korea, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, my favorite
Aye,
dysfunctional
aye, aye.
organization, my favorite dysfunctional thing, has been in discussions with China over establishing a joint information mechanism over the water discharge from China's crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant, similar to the agency's arrangement with South Korea, according to the agency chief. In
Oh,
light
I'd
of
have a meltdown.
in light of the water discharge that has begun late last month, South Korea and the IAEA have established the IAEA
It was,
ROC
uh,
Fukushima
no,
Information Mechanism.
you got it wrong. It was Japan's crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant.
I'm just reading.
You said
I did.
China's.
I did say China, so I apologize. It is Fukushima is Japan's. Yes, the ROK stands for South Korea's official name, the Republic of Korea. In an
Yep.
exclusive interview with Yonhap News, all right. On Friday, the IAEA Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi, all right, said
Or as we call it, fucked up Shima.
said the agency was having discussions with China over creating an arrangement similar to that with South Korea. Look, the reality is the Fukushima reactor is discharging radioactive water into the ocean. Okay, and there are concerns that this radioactive water is going to affect the ocean life in the region or
Well,
even
it
the people
will.
in the region.
It will. To what extent, we don't know. I
Right.
mean, yeah, with the amount of radioactive pollution into the ocean there, it'll probably be a minimal effect.
Well, it depends I mean, it depends on a lot of things. Right. I mean, there's a lot of questions that people still have, and rightly so, about that.
Sean just said Japan's going to create Godzilla.
Anyway, I'm getting as bad as you are.
Goyora!
Yeah. I don't think that Japan is going to create Godzilla. I don't think that there's going to be. First of all, the the effects from radiation. I know people aren't going to like this
Eventually
statement.
things die.
Are is natural. Okay. I'm not saying the amount of radiation is natural, but the effects that it has on people is natural, and creatures and so forth. And one thing that should be evident to anybody, okay, is the fact that the radiation is not it's not as devastating to people's populations as was dreamed
Well,
about in the movies like On the Beach. Okay.
look at look at Chernobyl, and the wildlife out there is making a comeback, and apparently, uh, it the wildlife which is returned there, plants and animals and stuff. There is no anomalous life forms. No wolves with 3 legs or 6 feet,
Right.
anything like that. Yeah, they're normal and healthy apparently. So
Well,
Yeah,
and they do have higher levels of radioactivity. It's not to say that radioactivity isn't dangerous. It is, especially to
it depends upon the
humans.
dosage.
It depends upon dosage and time, right? The basic total dosage that your body has absorbed. Okay. And I'm not trying to minimize the situation, but the over expressive fear that people have that it's going to destroy all life on Earth is quite frankly
Because
nonsensical to a large
it's
extent.
because of Hollywood.
It is, and people have a Hollywood view of it, and they still have a Hollywood view
Like,
of it,
hey,
and that's the sad part. Instead of taking
Hiroshima.
rational steps towards that.
Hiroshima, for generations after the bombs, scientists were monitoring the population of Hiroshima, right, for any of these kinds of things which, yeah, science fiction has basically predicted. Nothing happened.
Well,
Everything's normal.
there are certain things that there are certain effects that they have
There
noticed.
was a higher level of stillbirths and stuff, I believe.
There are higher
That's
level of
about,
silvers. There were mutations seen. Not now the kind of mutations that they're talking about are disfigurement type of mutations more than anything.
yeah, very, very small mutations.
Yes, um, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get Godzilla and you're not going to get Rodan. You're not going to get freaking King Ghidorah or whatever the hell that damn thing was with the
That
three
wants to
heads.
become the Hulk.
You're not going to become the Hulk. Okay.
You might
You
turn big and strange looking, but that'll be because of all the tumors.
Okay. YouTube prankster Fred Bear wears a trash bag as he crashes New York Fashion Week catwalk. No one even bats an eye until he's tackled by security.
Yeah, and it took them half an hour to realise that he wasn't one of the fucking catwalk models.
A video of a YouTuber strutting on the ramp in the New York Fashion Week while onlookers cheered for him is making the rounds on social media. Fred Bear, 21, wore a clear trash bag, a shower cap, and a bright pink shorts while confidently walking down the ramp. This sounds like somebody lost a bet.
No, it sounds like
Okay.
it sounds like somebody just had a good idea for a troll.
And I'll bet that somebody else lost a bet, even if it was that, because somebody said you wouldn't do that. Oh, really? Watch this. I'm telling you, somebody lost a bet here.
Yeah,
Okay, but it
either that or
shows
he's
you
trying to
what
impress a girl.
it it shows you just how deranged these people are. All right.
It shows you how bored they are.
Well, with fashion and so forth. Look.
Have you know? Hey, there's something. Have you noticed? Ever since I was a little kid, I noticed this. These fashion designers,
Hmm.
yeah, put on the fashion shows, right?
Yeah.
You will never, ever see any of that stuff being worn by anybody anywhere.
I would say
It
that that's
never.
true.
I mean,
Well, unless it's Lady Gaga in a meat suit.
yeah, but that's a one-off, and that was just like to make people complain. But no, seriously, the fashion industry, it's bollocks. They're making millions for fucking shit.
Yeah, and that's the problem is they're trying to one up one another, and and the stuff is just crap. It just really is. It just shows you the state of our
Yep.
society, to be honest. World's lithium reservoir, right, found in supervolcano McDermott caldera in Nevada, with 1.5
I ain't
trillion
digging it out.
dollars worth of the precious metal that powers world's technology.
I just wait
Geologists,
for it.
hold on, let me finish this. Geologists have uncovered what they believe could be the world's largest lithium deposit inside an ancient supervolcano along the Nevada-Oregon border in the U.S. Clay containing approximately 40 million metric tons of the precious metal, all right, was identified throughout the 28-mile long McDermott caldera, nearly double what has been found in Bolivia's salt flats that have long held the record as the most lithium deposits. Okay, here's a dirty little secret for people who don't know this. Lithium is not rare. Okay?
When that caldera goes off, it's going to be even less rare.
The caldera is not going to go off anytime soon.
Yes, it will. Maybe it's
I,
not in our
I
lifetime,
said not
but it will.
anytime soon. Okay, lithium is not a rare element. Okay, it is it is quite
No, no,
common
yeah.
in many
Now,
different areas.
dilithium,
Not dilithium.
yeah.
We are not going to talk about Star Trek. Welcome to DM. The the ideas behind some of this nonsense, right? That we have to worry about lithium, and there were people that were terrified that China has was the place where most of the lithium in the world was,
Uh, Hold on, you said it, so China is asshole.
right? The worries about lithium and so forth. Look, why is everyone talking about lithium batteries and everything? Most people don't realize we have lead acid batteries that can hold a larger charge of
That's something if you, upgrade your mobile phones, or cell phones,
right.
you Yanks call them, you'll notice the more advanced the technology behind the battery, the crappier the battery is.
Well, the reason for that has to do with the fact that lithium is very, very light. Okay, so they talk about when they talk about energy density, they're also talking about the material with lithium, and lithium is a very light material. Okay, we can have batteries that physically are the same size that weigh a hell of a lot more that are made out of lead acid and lead iron. All right, concentrations. All right,
And they'll hold a bit of
that hold
more
more
charge.
electricity potential than lithium batteries do.
Yeah, I'd
Okay,
rather have the heavy battery than the light battery.
well, it depends on what depends on what your function is. It depends on what you're trying to do.
Like, I'm sick of every fucking 2 days recharging my fucking phone.
Well, that's a
And
separate.
that's if it's just left there on standby.
That's
You
that.
use the fucker, you've only got a few hours worth of fucking charge.
The battery technology is improving, but it's still a long ways off from where it needs to be. You ready for this one, Batman?
Not really, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, the world is disappointed by the UN, now looks elsewhere for answers.
Yes, and how they're doing it is something that Nomad is very familiar to hearing.
Yeah.
Mark, calling Orson. Come in, Orson.
Bloomberg news. Okay, a brutal grinding war in the Ukraine. Governments overthrown in Nigeria and Gabon. All right, lingering hostility over COVID-19 pandemic and unequal distribution of life-saving vaccines. With
Say that,
dozens of
say
world
that
leaders descending
again.
upon New York for the United Nations General Assembly gathering, all right, global problems are showing up fast and thick at the world's body's door with no solutions in sight. And many countries are starting to look elsewhere to do something about them. What has the UN ever done?
Voted itself more money.
Okay? The UN, the problem, the reason people are looking to other groups rather than the UN is the piggy bank from the US is being shut down because we can't afford it. And so the US
You
is
should.
slowly but surely withdrawing funds from the UN. Why?
I
We
wouldn't.
don't have a
I wouldn't
choice.
say that. The United States should actually be charging them rent.
The United States should have kicked out the UN a long time ago. We should have removed ourselves from the UN a long time ago because it has never served the interests of the United States.
It's never
Since the
served the
19
interest.
since the
It's
1960s, the UN has not ever been a positive for the world, in my opinion, nor for the United States. So why is the United States even involved in
uh, since its inception, really, the United Nations has not served the interests of its constituent members. It's only served the interests of the United Nations, the the organization,
Yes,
if you know what I mean.
I would tend to agree with that. And the reality is that these dictators and everything else, which now dominate the UN,
Hey,
have begun to realize
I've got
that they can get
I've got a
whatever
bit.
they want from other groups, or that the UN can't provide them the money spigot. All right, that kept a lot of them in power, so they're looking to China.
I've got a bit of good news for you though. If you went to war with the UN, you'd win. You know why? Because their troops aren't allowed to fire upon other troops.
Well, that might be true. Okay. I'm gonna do this one next. I changed my mind. French
George up and
ambassador
full star.
this French ambassador to Niger held hostage in embassy. President Macron says.
Yeah, tell the truth. He's just trying to escape from Macron.
The ambassador is living off military rations, Macron told reporters in the eastern town of Seymour.
That's
I
that's
can't
better than
believe it.
most
In Oz,
Nigerians are.
right?
Yeah.
As we speak, we have an ambassador and diplomatic staff who are literally being held hostage at the French embassy, he said. They are preventing food deliveries, he said, in an apparent reference to Niger's new military rulers. He is eating military rations. If they're eating MREs,
Hey,
they're
here's another
fine.
thing.
Okay?
Here's another. Hey, here's another thing for you. He's French, right? And he's eating military rations. So basically, he's getting better food than he would back home.
Why did you make
Have
the
you ever had
comment?
French food?
Why did you make the comment that you made earlier?
Which one? I wish it was Macron instead.
Yes. The
I
problem
would
is
have thought that would have been obvious.
the problem with that is that even if it was Macron, nothing would have changed. Let's be honest.
The other thing is, if it was any other country ambassador, like if it was a British ambassador, they would get far better treatment than the French ambassador because people in Africa hate the French. Not
Well,
just a joke hate like we've got in the UK, but they really hate the French, especially former French colonies.
yeah, well,
The French were monsters.
the French are monsters. It's not were monsters. The
Yeah,
reality
I mean
is that
when they had colonies.
French even now, French troops. Okay, but before so people understand this.
French
Brought
troops,
in
that's a good one.
they brought in peacekeepers, UN peacekeepers from France and in Gabon and
Gabon.
or Gabon, whatever, Gabon.
I like the way you just keep pronouncing it the way you do. It makes me laugh.
They had
Sorry.
military trials for the number of rapes being committed
Yep.
in mass by the French troops themselves, including their officer corps. They were basically treating the local population as if it was a brothel to them.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm not exaggerating this. You can look up the reports.
Even
Okay,
during Victorian times, British soldiers did not behave that way.
This is it's beyond the pale what's been happening here. This is why they hate the UN. This is why no one's they're not listening to the UN or anything else, right? It's been a bad scene for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I'm not gonna justify France's actions here, right? I'm not gonna say that their embassy should be trying to be starved out, but if Niger wants to remove that embassy, they should just flat out say, look, we're cutting off ties to you. Get the hell out.
No,
that's really what they should say.
I think the way they should do it is they should wake the French embassy staff up in the morning by
TM. That's uncalled for.
with a wrecking ball.
Yeah, maybe. TM.
Istanbul,
down, ball. Down, TM.
Constantinople, Istanbul, Constantinople. Why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks.
Yeah. Turkey may part ways with the EU if necessary, says Erdogan. Turkish President Erdogan, I cannot even try to say the first part of his name, on Saturday said that Turkey may part ways with the European Union, suggesting that his country may end the bid to join the European bloc. Dude, why did you want to join the European bloc to begin with?
Yeah, everybody in the European bloc wants to leave the EU. Even fucking Germany wants to leave the EU.
Have you noticed that ever since the British left, the big money spigot got turned off to the EU? People are like, it's not such a great place anymore. Imagine that!
Never was.
Grifters on parade.
During the war on the slave trade, we had to pull the fucking teeth out of the European countries' mouths to get the fucking join. Even then, they didn't.
Well,
Ah, yes. Jaw-dropping boat shots, yes. Oh, damn it, move.
no, the you got to remember when you guys were trying to stop the slave trade. Okay, you still had the Middle European areas like Germany.
Yeah.
We're still running around with serfs,
Uh, yeah.
literal serfs.
Because because of William the Conqueror, slavery wasn't that well liked in England.
Yes,
Literally in England, though, because he actually basically abolished the slave trade in England.
and eventually it goes down to other things, and the serfs are included. But
Yeah.
but serfs,
Oh yeah.
being a serf, you're pretty much a slave. In fact,
Oh no,
it's
you're a
in
lot
some
better off
ways
than
you're
a
worse
slave.
than being a slave.
Actually, no. A serf is a lot better off than a slave. A serf can actually leave his home,
No,
go and live
a
somewhere
serf is
else.
tied to the land. They can't go to any other land. They can't sit up there
Uh,
and leave.
English serfdom was different to German serfdom, I
Well,
believe, because
that
yeah,
might be true.
I mean, medieval times in England, you had a lot of population shifting.
Yeah,
People
that was
moving,
because people
moving
were
to
running away
different
from
places.
the frickin' from the Vikings that were raiding.
No, that was before medieval times. By medieval times, the Vikings weren't Vikings anymore.
Yeah, they were English. Anyway, anyway, let's get on to the next story.
Oh, very funny, Sean. Could you hang 10 on a serf? No, but if you got a disinterested one, Sean, you'd have a surfboard.
Anyway, MGM cyber attack. Freaking dad jokes continue. MGM cyber attack leaves thousands of guests on the Las Vegas Strip locked out of rooms at hotels like
I
Mandalay
wouldn't
Bay
have
and
done that.
Bellagio, as
I
the
wouldn't have
clip
done that.
shows Aria Casino's slot machines out of service.
See, I wouldn't have done that
Mm-hmm.
if I'd have hacked them. I would have locked them out of the rooms. I would have just switched their the room allocations round. So
You,
yeah, they can get into a room with a key
you,
card, just not the one that they left.
I want to repeat this. As the clip shows the Aria Casino's slot machines out of service, what do you think they were doing?
Oh yeah, they were stealing money.
Yes,
I know.
exactly. Thousands of guests at the MGM resorts in the Las Vegas Strip have been locked out of their hotel rooms after the company was hit with a cyber attack, according to reports. MGM Resorts International has about 48,000 rooms on the Strip. The company's properties include Mandalay Bay, the Bellagio, the Luxor, the MGM Grand, among others, including the Aria, right, which is a
That's
I
the
will be
thing, though.
honest with
It
you.
was a cyber attack.
Of all these hotels that they listed, I've been in most of them, and the Aria
Yeah,
is
you were
probably the most beautiful. It really is the
you were
best one to me.
casing the joint, weren't you?
I was not casing the joint. All right, the company said in a statement on Monday that the MGM Resorts recently identified a cybersecurity issue affecting some of the company's systems. What do you mean you
I'm not.
identified the
I,
issue? You
I'm
mean-
not saying Nomad was. I'm not saying Nomad was behind this, but apparently he's expecting the delivery of a brand new mansion next week.
That is not true.
Oh, it's
That
the
is
week
not.
after, is it?
That is not true. Anyway, enough about the MGM Grand. Well, you asked the question, which was MGM. Does that stand for Metro Goldwyn Mayer? And the answer is yeah, it
Yeah.
does. They are part of that.
Ah, right.
They
So
are
they've
part
got
of
the
the Rolls
fingers in
Royce.
more pies than
Yes,
just movies. Yeah,
yes,
fair enough.
yes, yes, they do.
It's healthy for a new company to diversify like that.
Forecasters of officials carefully monitoring the next Atlantic tropical cyclone. Forecasters and local officials on Monday put portions of the northeastern Caribbean on alert for a brewing tropical system expected to become an Atlantic hurricane season's next named storm. If it does develop,
Yay!
it'll be called Lee. Okay, let's go down to
No,
what I
it
really
won't.
wanted
No, it
to.
won't be called. No, it won't be called Lee. It'll be called E.
What I really wanted to go is to this. Okay, now notice that they keep coming back with this whole global warming bullshit, but they came back with a graphic, and this is the graphic they came up with. Named storms. And look at all those named storms. Now, this is supposed to be from 1944 all the way to basically present for named storms in 2020, right? Of the number of named storms. Now, it wasn't until I think what was it, 1990s before they sit up there and started naming
Yeah.
tropical storms at all.
And back and originally, storms only got women's names.
Yes. And they decided to change that because the women's groups, supposedly the women's groups were protesting. Right
I thought
now,
it was because they ran out of women's names.
there's plenty of women's names. Some of them are not repeatable, but that's a separate issue. Now you'll see you'll see the little graphic that they got here, right? These are the season. Now, if everybody remembers, we can just go back a few months. What did they say was going to happen during this hurricane season? They said we were going to see a plethora. For those who remember correctly, they said we were going to have a very active, the word was very active hurricane season. Now, that still could happen. It could. It hasn't yet. And it has bummed these people out. Okay? I'm not saying that we're not going to get hit with a hurricane, but...
Well, you're not going to get hit by a hurricane. You live too far away.
No. I'm not talking about me specifically. I'm talking about the United States.
Oh, who cares about that? Those guys.
We've had one hurricane come ashore. They claimed it was going to be horrific, and for people, some people, it was. But was it the world-ending hurricane that people were talking about? No.
I think to date, the most disastrous hurricane they've had in the Caribbean, Florida, was that one in, I think it was the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, the one that they actually used in an episode of Quantum Leap.
Yeah. Quick, eat bugs and live in a garbage can. Mr. Barkley.
Matt, have you been looking at the net zero fucking plans, have you? Seriously, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, you're not gonna look. The reality is that hurricanes have been around for long periods of time. All right, we don't
Hurricanes
know
have
everything.
been around for long. Hey, seriously, hurricanes have been around longer than life.
Probably.
No, seriously, they have.
We have no way of knowing for sure. That's why I said
Kind
probably
of
on Earth. We have it. We don't know for sure because we haven't seen the past. Until we can see the past, it's going to be kind of hard to prove that. If you're talking about before life, there was no one here to see it. Until we go far enough out in space to where we can look back with a powerful enough telescope to see it.
Put it this way: you get hurricanes on Mars, right? Mars has a lot less energy put into its system than the Earth does.
Well, you have dust storms,
right?
Yeah, that is true.
No, you actually get hurricanes on Mars.
That is true. You do have less energy creation on Mars. It's true.
Why? It's and less energy coming in from the sun than we do.
Yes, and less being released from the inner core.
The Earth has always been a very active planet. There were hurricanes back before there was life.
I'm not saying that doesn't make sense and it's perfectly reasonable.
I think there's actually geological evidence that points towards this as well.
Well, once again, but until we actually see it, you're not going to know that. That's all I'm saying. We believe that. I don't disagree with you. I believe there were hurricanes before there was life, but I'm just saying there is no proof. Yeah. There's a difference.
Yeah, there will be once we get the Polaroid into my time machine.
2 California cities repealed the crime-free multi-housing programs. Now, I love these programs here. In the past week... Yeah.
Hold on. Crime-free multi... What, are they only putting people in who've had 2 frontal lobotomies or something?
Yeah. In the past week, 2 California cities, Riverside and San Bernardino, have repealed most of their crime-free multi-housing programs, which were designed to improve tenant safety, but have been criticized for destabilizing families, especially in low-income communities of color. The program helps landlords choose better landscaping and lighting and promotes neighborhood watch groups. The city of San Bernardino public information officer Jeff Krause said it is also established rules against criminal activity. In other words, if your family commits a crime, we kick you out of the house. That's what the rules
I'm okay
were.
with this. I'm okay with this.
The problem is the way robberies have been taking place in California.
Those buildings are standing empty.
Pretty much everyone's been kicked out. That's not exactly what this is saying, but really what it is saying is that they have an uprooting member, that ran afoul with the law, because everyone's running afoul with the law, even if you weren't actually trying to commit a crime. The fact that somebody accused you of some kind of domestic violence because you yelled at them.
Before you go on, can
Mm-hmm.
you read what Sean put about hurricanes and feminazis?
Where was that? They're going to start naming them real names like
No, below that.
below that one. Huh? To
Yeah,
satisfy the feminazis, would they be hurricanes on Mars, since Mars was the god of war?
hurricanes.
Hurricanes. So,
Hurricanes, hurricane.
I'm not going to go into Greek mythology. Anyway, off to the next story. NFL lawsuit bombshell. If the black players don't like it here, they should go back to Africa and see how bad it is. According to a lawsuit brought by Jim Trotter, Jerry Jones, and Terry Pegula, made racist comments about multiple issues. Okay. Then this is all the further I'm going to go with this. Okay, but I want to make a comment. This goes back to the Black Lives Matter bullshit with Kaepernick kneeling.
Yeah.
Okay, and the reality is this is not a racist statement. Okay.
No, this is a fed up statement.
Okay, it is a fed up statement about being blamed for anything and everything that comes down the pike. All right, and this is the problem with this bull crap. Okay, is everything becomes
racist. It's going to make racists out of people who were not racist.
Well, exactly. All right, these are not people that were looking for things. But what it does do is you end up with situations like this, and this is another thing.
Hold on, before you go on, there's another thing. You know that a white person is more likely to get a pleasant reception in any given African country than a black American.
That's probably true.
And that's true.
I have no doubt about that. All right, Florida principal forced out over black pupils only assembly on improving grades. A defiant Florida principal claims she was forced to resign in the wake of an assembly on poor academic performance, which included only black students. The Brunel Elementary School chief, Donnell Evison, stepped down from her post last week after increasing calls for her removal. According to reports, 4th and 5th grade black students were pulled from their classrooms to attend an assembly on poor performance on standardized tests by black African American students. All right, the students were told that they could end up dead or in prison if they did not focus on academics and elevate their grades. Okay, now
that's disgusting. That's wrong. You don't single out a group. I don't care what fucking colour group it is. You don't single them out and do shit like that to them. That's gonna fucking make the situation worse if there is a fucking situation.
I agree. All right. The other problem is when they're saying this, the only reason we're hearing this was it only black students that were performing poorly in these schools by comparison?
It would be across the board.
Okay, you haven't been to U.S. schools, have you?
I'm saying no. I mean, yeah, maybe black students were performing poorly in the majority, but it wasn't just black students who have been performing poorly.
Right, but you're only talking about 2 grades in the small elementary school. All right. So you don't know how many students that they pulled into here, all right, because it doesn't go into this. And what I'm trying to point out is
they pulled half the students in, which means there were 6 kids in that room.
It could be. All right, but and should this principal be fired for this?
Oh God,
Yes,
yes.
because this is not walking in
I'll
there and
tell you
telling
something else.
students, any student, you're right, you're going to end
Well,
up in prison, you're going to go to jail, you're going to this when they're in their fourth and the fifth grades is absolutely nonsense to start with. Okay,
yeah, I'll
because
tell you something else.
that's obviously not gonna fix the problem. But that's where we
I'll
are with this bullshit.
I'll tell you something else when you get a look at that picture you just pulled up there again. Because that's not her, is it?
This
Yeah,
is the
there she is. She
this is the
should also
principle.
be required by law to wear a brown paper bag with eye holes cut in it.
I don't think that that's the issue. All right. The problem that you end up seeing with this crap, all right, is and the reason I was bringing this out is has to do with what has happened with our schools. I'll guarantee you, for these poor kids, they're getting busted into this school.
Uh huh.
Okay, which means they're already behind the power curve because they're being bussed while quote unquote the white students probably aren't. All right,
Oh, so the school is probably in a white neighbourhood, and they're being
exactly
basically put in a place where they feel uncomfortable already, which isn't going to help a kid's performance.
right. The assembly told black students that they would face dire consequences if their performance didn't improve. Well, that's that saying
Tell you
that
something else.
they
I
need
think.
to improve the performance is one thing.
Tell you something else. I think is pretty divisive. Along racial lines, it's black people in the states called African Americans. They're not. They're just fucking Americans. Stop calling them that. It's a divisive line.
It is, and it's something that has created a lot of problems, right?
And it's
Because
something that's only started in when? The 90s?
in the '70s, it really
Was
started in
it?
the '70s. Yeah, '70s and '80s. That's when you started seeing the crap start to begin. All right, and it all it's done is created division in the country. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not that there weren't racial problems in the country prior to that. Okay, they were right. The problem that you're seeing now, though, is excuse making and excuse making, and you have more and more people with bigotry of low expectations coming in. For example, right, you end up with this story. Okay, Princeton's disturbing course claims black individuals are disabled due to systematic racism. Black people should be considered disabled due to systematic racism. The name of the
No.
course taught is The Healing Humanities, Decolonizing Trauma Studies from the Global South. All right.
Decolonizing trauma. So you can't colonize or decolonize a concept. You can
Yes.
only colonize or decolonize an area of fucking land.
Yeah. And the curriculum teaches students that black people should be considered disabled due to systematic racism. In other words, you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim. Because people in the past were victims, you're a victim too. You're a victim, she's a victim, he's a victim. Victim. This kind of
President Obama's a victim.
victim mentality is freaking everywhere. And
That
this
black
is coming from
billionaire, he's a victim.
Princeton, one of the Ivy League schools,
There's
right?
no such thing anymore.
And once again, you have a bunch of freaking leftist lunatics because that's who runs this institution. They've been a leftist pit forever. Princeton has. Okay? Yet what are you getting out of them? You're getting racism out of them again and
Yeah,
again and again.
I hear the feminism's sparking up as well because they want to change the name of it to Princeston.
Probably. So you end up with these situations where you have this crap out of control, and here's what it leads to. The Oakland DA accuses critics of racism as upset residents express outrage over crime. Now, who do you think these residents are? They're black residents themselves.
Yeah.
A California district attorney has claimed that allegations that she is soft on crime, all right, are actually racist attacks against her. The Alameda
Oh,
County District Attorney Pamela Price and some of her supporters slammed Oakland residents who have been complaining that crime is too high in the major California city and that the DA is not doing enough. Of course the DA is not doing enough. She's a freaking Marxist. It
Or
has
she's incompetent, or both.
Have you ever met a Marxist that was competent?
Yes, yes. Well, no, I haven't, but I've heard of them.
It's like the
They're,
mythical white elephant, right?
no. They're the ones you don't meet, but they're the ones who end up in history books, like Lenin. He was a pretty successful and competent Marxist.
Yeah. He was so competent that he couldn't sit up and run a revolution until the Germans helped him. Yeah, that's competent.
Hey, see, he was competent. He knew his feelings. He got in help.
Yeah, he was arrested by the Germans, and the Germans said, "We can use this tool." All right, is what they said.
Stalin was competent.
compared to Lenin and some of the other guys, sure.
What about that Mao Zedong guy? Oh, you look at him. He was really competent and successful.
He was successful at killing 60 million of his own people. How much more successful can he get?
Well, they looked at him funny.
Yeah, okay. You see my point. Okay. The reality is this woman is a Marxist. All right. They're claiming
Idiot.
Oakland has a very high concentration of African Americans. I think that they're around 60%. I'm not exactly sure what they're listed as, but they're around 60% of the population. So most of the population is black. Okay.
Yes, basically in the blackout. If there's a power cut at night, you can't see most of the population.
It's not
unless they're smiling.
Boo. Very much a boo. The people who have been complaining about the crime there are not the white residents of these areas.
No, they're the people who are actually getting the businesses damaged.
Right, and guess what? Most of them are blacks.
Yeah.
And they're upset, naturally.
Hey, we can all remember, what was it, 3-4 years ago, that black guy standing outside the ruins of his shop, openly weeping because the BLM...
What the hell's wrong with you, TM? TM.
Yeah, you're right there, Mark. So was Harpo and Chico. Nobody ever talks about their fourth brother, Carlo
Marx. Anyway, and so what do you got going on in the United States? Now we're in an economic downturn. Okay, we're in an economic downturn. Hollywood was in an economic downturn. The studios were failing because they'd gone all into streaming, and the streaming revenue was dying. So what did the WGA do and the Screen Actors do? They went on strike. Okay. Now,
nobody noticed.
Not only did nobody notice, nobody cared, right? And they've been on strike now for over 6 months, or about 6 months. And there's no end to it in sight, folks.
That's because nobody cares.
Nobody does care, right? So you have the economy hasn't improved. So what do you get? You get the United Auto Workers launch unprecedented strike. Yes, against all three automakers. The United Auto Workers Union is on strike against General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. Right? I don't know. Right, for the first time in its history, it has struck all three of America's unionized automakers at the same time. Workers on Friday walked out of three plants, one each from the big three automakers in Missouri, Michigan, and Ohio. Picketers were met with cheers from sign-waving union members. All right.
I hate to say this before you go on. Back in the 70s, the United Kingdom had a very big automotive industry until this kind of thing happened. Now we've got Nissan and Komatsu.
Yep.
This is what is going to happen to the United States because of this.
No, it already has happened in the United States.
Yeah, it's going to happen even more.
It is. All right. The UAW referred to its targeted strikes at the three plants as stand-up strike right? Which is called a strategic new approach to walking off the job. Guys, you're barking up the wrong freaking tree. Okay? You are don't realize people are tired of what these unions have been doing. Okay? And
Uh-huh.
I'm not just talking about the WGA and SAG-AFTRA and things like that. People have started to get wise to what has happened because of these union strikes. We had the best auto manufacturing in the world in the 1950s and the early 1960s. By the 1970s, these strikes had gotten so freaking out of control that the big three automakers said, you know what, to hell with this. And they started locating their plants out of the United States. And the result was an absolute collapse, all right, within the United States of the auto industry. And these idiots haven't learned a lesson from that. They're going back to the same old freaking standby. Oh, everyone loves unions. Unions aren't loved anymore. Nobody sits
They're
up
not
there
when they're
except
stuck doing the
except
job.
for the loony leftists think unions are
Yeah.
a good thing in general. Most people don't think unions
Ideally,
are a good thing in general, and I'm not
ideally,
completely anti-union, just mostly.
I, ideally, unions are a good thing because ideally, they provide an intermediary between the management and the workforce, and are there to work out compromises and deals so that the workforce and the management can work together. That's what a union should be.
Unions they only work when they are fixing a problem with the work environment itself. Other than that, what unions become is less work for more money. Now, there's some places that will always be inherently dangerous, like mining. Mining, no matter what you do, will always be inherently dangerous. Okay? So when you
Yep.
talk about safety and things like that and the working conditions of the miners, unions are, like you said, a must. Okay? Everywhere else, however, unions become a drag at some point very quickly. All right, once safety rules get established that for all intents and purposes work, then you don't need unions anymore, and they become less work for more money. All right, and people forget back in the '60s, back in the late '50s and early '60s, the United Auto Workers unions, right, had gotten so fat, okay, on cash. The people who were union members back then when they retired were living lives the average American wanted to live, and this is after they had retired. They
Yep.
were living the high life, when I say the high life, these people were running around, all right, with all these RVs, all right, totally paid for, debt free, all right, because they didn't have to pay for health care, they didn't have to pay for anything, and they had these massive union pensions. Well, those union pensions all started collapsing once the expansion of the auto industry stopped in the United States. That's why a lot of these unions started collapsing, because they couldn't get more money. It was a Ponzi scheme in a lot of ways. And now these
Isn't
idiots
that
are
the
doing the
one of
same
those things
thing.
from Happy Days?
Well, not that
Oh no, that's Potsy. Sorry.
Potsy, and it's not Fonzie. Okay, it's not, nor is it a combination of the two. And speaking of the WGA, Drew Barrymore breaks down an emotional video discussing backlash for returning to the air after the Writers Guild strike. Well, it's not after their strike, right? Or during the Writers Guild strike. So I said after. I apologize. I misspoke. Drew
After people
Barrymore
lost interest.
Drew Barrymore returned to her New York studio this week to record segments for The Drew Barrymore Show despite the ongoing Writers Guild of America strike. She was met with criticism by supporters of the WGA, whose members picketed outside the studio. After a week of backlash, Barrymore has released a 4-minute video in which she emotionally defended her decision to return. Barrymore
She's
was
not a writer. They should shut up and leave her alone.
Barrymore was in tears after a few seconds of talking, and she began by saying that what she was about to say wasn't under the direction of a publicist. She wanted to speak for herself. Okay. Okay. First of all, Drew Barrymore is one of many of these talk show hosts that have come back or never even left. Bill Maher is another big one that they're all talking about backlash. But tell me, since you want to talk about backlash, how come nobody's picketing the View? How come nobody's picketing Whoopi and the cackling hens, Joey Behar, and the rest of those freaking lunatics?
I
Sonny
can
Holston.
answer why nobody's picketed the View. Because no fucker watches it.
I'm telling you now, those cackling hens have a lot more freaking clout than people give them credit for. All right, because there are for whatever. There's a lot of freaking homemakers, for whatever reason, follow those stupid cackling hens religiously, and they are evil people. Joey Behar is an evil person. Whoopi Goldberg is just stupid. Joey Behar, however, is a flat-out evil biddy. Okay?
No, Whoopi Goldberg is senile. There's a difference.
That can be true. Okay? Whoopi Goldberg is.
The last time I saw her, the last time I saw it, looks like she's trying to outdo Marlon Brando in her girth.
That's a separate issue. The thing is about Whoopi Goldberg that's underappreciated. No, that's underappreciated is Whoopi Goldberg. People don't realize this. Whoopi Goldberg was actually a hell of an actress. All right, and I don't think that she was appreciated enough about how good an actress she was early on. Right? She really is a phenomenal actress. And there's and that's not saying that's not saying that I like Whoopi Goldberg or her stances or anything else, but she was a much better actress than people ever wanted to give her credit for. And I can appreciate that. I really can appreciate that. Now, I find it sad that when she became popular, she also became typecast and she allowed herself to be that way. Okay, she could have expanded roles, all right, and taken on roles that would have expanded her clout. Really, she could have. Okay, there is a number of roles that I think, for example, Disclosure, right, where they gave that role to Dingbat. What's her name?
Oh.
Demi Moore.
Oh, okay. God. Thanks for putting me off my food.
I did. The thing is Whoopi Goldberg being cast in that movie would have been fun. A match made in heaven. You know how certain people could do certain roles that they seem to be built for.
Yep.
You know, like Nicholson in One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. All right, he emulated that perfectly. Right, it was like the role was created for him. You know, but you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It would have suited her perfectly. Instead, I'm sorry, but they Drew Barry or not Drew Barrymore. Demi Moore was just not as good an actress as people always wanted to be. They all wanted just to see her because they thought she was good looking. That role did not require somebody that was good looking. That role required somebody that knew how to act, and Whoopi Goldberg knew how to act.
Demi Moore was ever that good looking, and she definitely couldn't really act. She wasn't an actor; she was an activist.
Well, that's probably true too. But it's unfortunate that, like I said, it's unfortunate. But Whoopi Goldberg on The View and everybody else, they've lost their ever-loving minds. They got TBS to such a degree they can't even talk to themselves. All right, they can't even see how much they become so deranged and how much it's harming their own mentality. That's how bad it is. Now, as far as Drew Barrymore goes, you and I disagree because you like Drew Barrymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I think Drew Barrymore. I've never liked Drew Barrymore. I thought she was always overhyped. All right. I haven't really liked. The closest movie that I thought was okay was the one she did with Adam Sandler. Like 51 First Dates or something like that?
No, that was Jim Carrey.
Was it Jim Carrey in 50 First Dates?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only time that I thought that Drew Barrymore was a halfway decent actor.
No, she wasn't GL. She's never been that good looking. Yeah, she's been a mid at best.
you know. So anyway, it's just, but you are right that she is at least sane in comparison to some of the other Hollywood people.
Yep.
All right, that she actually survived Hollywood. I'll give you that. Right, but that doesn't mean that I think that she's all that wonderful either. Speaking of teachers and things, thousands of South Korean teachers are rallying for new laws to protect them from abusive parents. Thousands of South Korean teachers and staff are rallied in Seoul on Saturday for more legal protections from bullying parents, a rising problem in a country known for its brutally competitive school environment. The weekend demonstrations in the capital city were triggered by the death of a teacher who was found dead at her elementary school in July after reportedly expressing emotional distress caused by complaints from allegedly abusive parents. Okay, now why am I bringing up this story? Because it's South Korea. Who cares? Okay,
Because it's funny.
Well, no, that's not funny.
It's making me chuckle.
The reason I'm bringing up this is because what has happened in Korea and what has been happening in the United States is very similar in a certain regard. And that is this. Teachers in the United States early in the 1900s, okay, had a societal position higher than quote unquote their pay. They were respected. They were
Yep.
authority figures and so forth. And when I say respected, I mean highly respected. Okay? But that's gone. That doesn't exist today. Parents do not hold teachers in very high regard. Part of the reason, quite frankly, has been because too many Americans have gone to college and have seen that the people who have gotten teaching degrees are not as intelligent as they are. Okay? That's a reality. I'm not saying that all teachers are bad. I'm just saying that people have noticed that to get a teaching
You know the
degree
old saying, don't you?
versus getting a degree in math are two separate things, and a lot easier. I could clep a teaching degree, to be honest. All right, I could take
You know
test
the old
after test, and I could pass a teaching.
You know the old saying, don't you?
What?
Yeah. Those who can do, those who can't teach.
Well, yes and no, right? But teachers used to have a very high. My point is that teachers used to be very respected, and they're not anymore. Okay. Now,
Same
what
over here.
has this caused? This is happening in
Unless,
Korea
of
now
course,
too.
going about French teachers, they were never respected.
Well, but see, this has happened in Korea too, and for similar reasons. The average parent now has gone through an educational system and are just as educated, all right, as their
Sometimes
supposed
more so,
teachers are. Okay,
if not more so.
right, and so familiarity breeds contempt.
Mm-hmm.
But the teachers haven't changed. They've noticed that the parents have changed, but they haven't realized that they haven't changed with the parents. And so the pressure that's being placed upon them, all right, they've got to try and figure out a way to handle the fact that they don't work for the kids, that their primary job is to work for the parents, all right, and that's the reality. And they have yet to accept that. That's why they came back with No Child Left Behind and all this other crap, just so they can sit in the United States, right? Now, in Korea, it's a little bit different in that, let's be honest, parents are they they're demanding that their kids succeed. All right, and so they put if a student fails, they blame the teachers, right? And when reality, most parents understand this. True parents understand this. If your child is failing, it's because of you more than anything else. It's because the parent is failing the child generally. But for a teacher to sit up there and try and point that out, teachers are forgotten. You work for the parents.
Yep. And a lesser spotted Mitch appears.
Mitch. Meanwhile, in the United States, you get this. Well, somewhere. All right. Teachers union threatens to shut down any school that sacks teachers under anti-strike laws. Really?
Nobody will notice.
Well, this is Britain. Britain's biggest teachers union has threatened to shut down any school that sacks a teacher under the
See
new
my
anti-strike
previous,
law.
see my previous exclamation.
All right. Daniel Kibibd, all right, the General Secretary of the National Education Union, the NEU, vowed to force closures where staff are penalized for failing to comply with the legislation to ensure the minimum service levels during mass walkouts. Fire them. Let them
Uh,
burn.
that's actually an illegal movement.
And
Go back. Read that is what he's threatening there.
you want to go back to that?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second here. Go on. Go on. What were you saying? I will get back to it, but go on what you're saying.
I mean, teachers getting removed because they're failing to do their jobs, right?
Yes.
That they're contracted to do.
Yes.
And he's saying, "Oh, you do that, we're going to close your school down." That's illegal. He is acting beyond that is acting beyond the union's mandate. Actually, that union should be busted.
Yeah, it would be. Well, what are they accomplishing? Are they trying to fix the school environment? Are they trying to fix it so that the schools
No, they're not.
It's less work for more money. This is why I'm saying that unions like this become a
power grab.
Yeah, and the problem with these people is that they've become so dominant in our societies, right? And that people haven't stood up to them. People have not stood up to the teachers union. I would have stood straight up to the teachers union. I said, "Show me where if you're worth this money. How come we're failing these students?" This is what the problem I had with Twitter this week. Okay, was talking to a person who's talking about an education complaining because they weren't getting federal money and everything, and this guy was going to make them lose federal grant money. And I said, "What difference does it make? You're not going to sit up there and produce a better outcome. You're not doing this. You keep talking about money, when you should be talking about student. And you have yet to come to understanding as to what the problem with this is. Here in Arizona, for example, you basically have to have a teacher's certificate, which means you have to go to school. You got to get a college degree in teaching. And my comment was, you don't need an elementary teacher, all right, with a college degree. Why do you need a college degree? Why do you need a bachelor's degree to teach a 5-year-old math? Or a 6-year-old, or a 7-year-old, or even up to a 10-year-old math. Yeah. Okay, this has been a huge problem in this country. You keep talking about, these teachers are underpaid. No, they're not. In fact, most teachers are overpaid, in my opinion. Because it's something that any high school student should be able to walk out of high school, walk into an elementary school, and be able to teach if they so desire, because they should already have that skill set. Otherwise, they shouldn't have gotten out of high school.
Yep. And let's face it, they get ridiculous amounts of holidays. Yes, I know they've got to work part of their holidays, marketing and stuff, but that's less of an issue nowadays with digitization.
Oh yeah, which is another thing. All right, which is another problem. And then this woman came back, started to explain to me that, oh no. So my comment was, I would let any military member, right, who left the military as an NCO, okay, non-commissioned officer, right, they should automatically be eligible to be a teacher. And she tried to say that NCOs didn't do lesson plans and create these kind of trainings for people. I said, yes, they do. I said, the problem you have going on in schools right now has to do. Yeah, the problem you have going on in schools right now is the environment isn't disciplined, and I'm not talking about disciplining this individual child or that individual child.
How does the number 5 make you feel?
Well, exactly. They're more interested in frickin' doing everything but reading, writing, and arithmetic. Well, these people, they come from bad families and they're not learning how to read. And how do you teach them how to read? Good question. You sit up there and you're going to have to do something and take those people away from the people who aren't reading.
Yeah.
You're going to have to remove them from the ones that aren't. And you say, okay, these people can't read.
You sit them down with a set of books. The first one, you open the page. it's got a picture of an apple, and above the apple there's an A, letter A, and then it says A is for apple. You start with the fucking simple shit.
Right. Well, and then what you do is you make them read. Right.
Yeah. And then once you've gotten them to get to the
And
basics,
if
you make it interesting.
well, you have them do book reports and things like that. You start assigning them things, but it's not that I don't
Yeah, but like
understand
I said, the best way to teach something to a kid, especially to a kid, is to make it interesting.
That's well true. That's the best way. But even if it's not interesting, teaching them rote is there's a rote teaching them rote
Here's
things
one for you. Here's
is
one for you,
necessary
Norman.
as well.
By the time I was 4, I could read
Yes.
at a 10-year-old level.
Yeah, because your
You know
parents
why?
wanted you to do.
No. You know why?
Why?
Because my mum and my dad bought me comics,
Yes. So because your parents
and I
wanted you
wanted
to
to know
read.
I wanted to know. Well, yeah, actually, it's because I wanted to know what the stories were.
Well, yeah, there's
I
that too.
mean, comics because you can follow the story just by looking at the pictures, right?
Hmm.
But I wanted to know more. I eventually learned how to read because of comics.
Well, yeah, and of course that is part of the problem, right? The thing that's going on with this attitude that people have in this country, right, especially in these big school districts, is they allowed these school districts to consolidate to the point where the teachers then took over, and now that you got the inmates running the asylum, they do not feel like they're beholden to the parents in any way, shape, or form. If you talk to the
Nope.
teachers now, they're in an adversarial relationship with the parent rather than in a working environment with the parents, and that is a massive part of the problem, right? And
Yeah,
it
it's
starts,
something
and
I.
if you don't believe me that of when it started in this country, just listen to the song. All right, PTA.
It's something I blame complacency for.
It is a good portion of that. That's true. Okay. Anyway, back to complacency. The purge starts. The purge.
Oh,
Outrage erupts after Eric Adams cuts NYPD overtime to pay for migrants.
it's your own fault.
New York, New York, Mayor Eric Adams moved to address New York's ongoing migrant crisis by reducing the NYPD's and other uniformed agencies' expenditures has now led to an outrage among law enforcement officials. Oh, but there wasn't a an outrage on the part of your populace at all. The move comes despite the police department's struggles to deal with crime that have increased in number and remain higher than before COVID. Now, this son of a bitch, along with all the mainstream media, including the jackasses on MSNBC, all right, specifically good old Rachel Madcow and some of the rest of them, all called Greg Abbott's busing these quote unquote migrants over to these sanctuary cities. What did they call it? They all called it a stunt. They're not calling it a
Yeah,
stunt anymore, are they?
correct me if I'm wrong, but sanctuary cities are still actually illegal, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Technically, they still are. But all of them are now raising Cain because their populations are all, including what's happening in Chicago, New York, these other big areas, are now starting to get flooded with these migrants. All right, which they said they were open to having them come in, and you got this jackass. We're getting 10,000 people a month. Hell, you got 10,000 people going across the Arizona border a day. You son of a bitch, and in a state with a population far less than New York City, and you're kibitzing about it. Does the words GFY or the letters GFY mean anything to you? You're not calling it. You called it a stunt. You called it a. You guys just sit up there and said he's a racist. He's a bigot. Well, Mr. Racist and Bigot, it looks like that problem that he was complaining about. Why aren't you sitting up there apologizing for calling people who told you how big a problem this was in their areas? All you had to say for them were that they were a bunch of racist bigots. All right, well, Mr. Racist Bigot, welcome to the party then, pal.
Oh, great as a cake.
Frickin' frauds. Anyway, what was that?
Yeah. For those of you listening, when Nomad was having that rant, he was actually in a different room to the mic.
I apologize. Right? This
Whoa, he looks gay.
this guy sit there and talked about how he was going to fix when he got elected. He was going to fix, if he got elected, all the problems and the crime problems in New York City and everything else. And everybody tried to point out to him on the right, saying, "No, this guy's just another Marxist leftist. All he's going to do is make things worse."
And what did he do? He made things worse.
Last three men charged with plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer found not guilty. Really? What a surprise. Actually, it is something of a surprise. What it means is that juries are now becoming wise to what the FBI was really doing. The
Mhm.
last three men to stand trial in connection with the plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitman have been found not guilty on all counts. Eric Molitor and twin brothers William Knoll and Michael Knoll were among 14 men charged in the state and federal court over the alleged plot to kidnap the governor at her vacation home in Antrim County in 2020, largely over the
Antrim.
Democrats. Antrim, excuse me, you're correct. All right, governor's strict COVID-19 shutdowns. Molitor, 39, and the Knoll brothers both pleaded not guilty to state charges providing material support for terrorist acts and illegally possessing firearms. You see, this was all a stunt by the FBI, all right, who coordinated this whole entire action. And the first ones, they were convicted, right? Because everyone was afraid of actually standing up against the feds. Now, as more and more evidence comes out of just what the FBI was actually doing in this case, people have started to wake up and realize, wait a minute here, this stuff has gotten out of control. None of these people ever should have been convicted of this. At best, this was entrapment. At best. During closing arguments, Attorney General William Rolstein told the jury that the defendants were going to help the plot leaders bring terrorists to Antrim County. If you're going to help somebody knowing that they
Yay!
planned a terrorist attack, that's wrong, Rolstein said. Molitor's defense attorney, William Barrett, said that in his closing that the state's case is weak and accused the prosecutors of attempting to mislead jurors in their presentation of evidence. This thing is just a good story that they couldn't back out of, and it's exactly the truth.
Yep.
Congratulations on this. So Dems are taking losses and losses everywhere. So there'll be a comeuppance coming, folks, because they won't handle this. Because there's another one that they lost. Albuquerque's DA refusing governor's order cannot and will not enforce something that is clearly unconstitutional. In other words, the district attorneys are saying a lawsuit is challenging the headline-grabbing order issued by New Mexico's Governor Michelle Grisham that banned legal gun owners from carrying their weapons in and around Albuquerque. A top prosecutor said he wants nothing to do with the edict. On Friday, Grisham issued an order that had the effect of banning individuals from carrying guns in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, all right, for at least 30 days. Now, this is an older story where the DA was saying, I'm not going to charge anybody. I'm not bringing charge against anybody,
Yep.
even if you arrest them.
I think all of her law enforcement departments told it off.
All of them but one, the one she controls,
Yeah.
and that is the state police.
And they didn't tell it off because it didn't fall under their jurisdiction at the time.
Well, no, it falls under their jurisdiction. They're just like, there's no way that they can do it. The state police do not have the ability, okay, because of how the force is structured.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Surely, if they're being ordered to do something which is clearly unconstitutional, they can turn around and say no because it's unconstitutional and therefore it's actually breaking the law.
They got to be very careful with that because you got to be completely right. You got to remember, somebody saying something's unconstitutional, right, isn't for you to decide. Unfortunately, I've tried to explain this to people who demand their constitutional rights and to a policeman all the time. You're not the determining factor for that. I hate to say it, but it's true. We as a society have determined that the courts will decide whether or not something's constitutional or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, in this case, just as a follow-on to this, A federal court has struck her down. A federal court has come in and said, "No, you can't do this." Now, I will.
Oh, I'd love it if they did it literally.
I'm going to be real blunt with you. What she did was wrong, and what she did was what they call overstepping her authority. Okay,
Just a bit.
okay. I will agree with that. I will also say it's illegal for her to try and use a something that was meant for an emergency order, that declaring an emergency order for health reasons. All right, doesn't apply to guns. That's that everyone
No.
understands that, and that's what she tried to use. Okay. She does have the authority, however, to declare martial law under certain circumstances. Okay. She just went out of her way to say, well, I'm choosing to say that guns are a health crisis. And they've been pushing
Oh,
this nonsense in the CDC for a long time. The
yeah.
Center for Disease
I know.
Control
I
has been
know.
trying to expand their asses into this shit too.
What?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. And
Are
this
they
is
trying to
where
say that germs now carry guns?
no they're going outside their mandate. And this is the
Yeah.
problem with what these people have been doing for a long time, and they've been getting away with it. Now, people have looked at COVID and the COVID lockdowns and the draconian nature of the COVID lockdowns, and most people have now come to the conclusion on their own. All right, regardless of what the mainstream media keeps trying to prop up, that not only wasn't it necessary, it was a mistake. These lockdowns, in their opinions, were a mistake. I tend to agree with them. Okay. But see, the problem is you can't put the genie back in the
Yeah.
bottle.
Go
Once
on.
people realize that, now to try and say, well, we're going to do it again, it's not that they think that COVID wasn't a disease. It's not that they're saying that COVID wasn't a deadly disease. Most people are still pro-vaccine, okay, as a matter of fact. But what they have said is that these lockdowns failed. They
Yep.
didn't stop people from catching the disease. They didn't decrease the number of people catching the disease. They made things worse around the country for no good reasons. This is also why the mask mandates are under attack. Because people are looking around going, show us where this worked. And everyone's like, well, we want the
Well,
mask mandate. Well, then you're telling me it worked.
actually,
Show me where it worked.
actually, if you look at your masks and look at the packaging it comes in, it tells you that the mask will not prevent you from spreading a virus nor contracting a virus. They don't work,
Well, they're
or at
not.
least not for the purpose with which they're being bought, sold, or
Right.
issued.
Right. The reality is that the mask does limit airflow. Limiting airflow has to have some effect, but is the effect
Yeah, it makes you out of breath.
well? But is that effect going to fix anything? Is it going to stop the virus
No,
to a degree that's
no, it isn't.
statistically noticeable in a large scale? And the answer was no. Okay.
Yeah,
And for people to say, well, those are the wrong masks. We needed to have all these N95 masks. Have you tried to wear an N95 mask? Have you tried to wear one? Saying that people are going to wear N95 masks for more than an hour or two, all right, is just absolutely insane. I'm just pointing it out there. N95 masks are not easy to breathe through. Okay, they're not, and yet they were making people wear these things in these hospitals. And what did you see in the hospitals? Did you see a decreased rate among hospital staff that was wearing N95 masks? No, and the reason for it is because as much as people wanted to believe that these masks were helping them, there's also the fact that COVID doesn't just use one vector to enter the body.
no, they don't. Viruses, yeah, they'll go through your respiratory system. Yes, they will. But they will also go through your pores
Yes. And so the idea that
or other orifices.
right, and so the idea that the N95 masks were going to make a significant difference, right, in people wearing these things, was out of control. And so you end up in a situation where, like, what you basically have is people saying, no, we're not going to tolerate this anymore, and you've got a group of people who are authoritarian in nature, in charge of the bureaucracy, trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
And the
Do you know
pushback behind
what,
this is going to be far more severe this time, I think.
do you know what PPE would be effective against viruses, but nobody's going to wear it because most people couldn't afford it. Government certainly couldn't afford to hand them out.
Right.
Hazmat suits.
Yes. Hazmat suits would have prevented a lot of this, but even wearing a hazmat suit for more than an hour is Trust me,
debilitating.
yeah, it is debilitating. Right, trying to do it day in and day out, I can tell you
I've
it'd be
won.
horrific.
I've won the 1980s military version, which
Yes.
we affectionately called the Noddy suit,
Hmm. And for how
and they
long?
were designed for yeah they were designed yeah for maximum effectiveness and maximum performance.
How long did you wear it?
Oh God, I did an exercise once with it in it all, and that was from sun up to sundown in the summer. We slept that night.
you, you, you mean you fell unconscious and couldn't be disturbed until the morning. It takes
We
it
were
all out of you. It
we,
really
we
does.
we were clinically dead for that night.
I know what that's like.
Yeah,
You just drop from exhaustion.
exhaustion, dehydration, yeah, yeah, weight loss,
Meanwhile,
you name it,
from
loss.
good old Eric Boy, New York City dumping more money into migrant crisis than any other U.S. hotspot. The Big Apple took in more migrants than anywhere else in the country last spring, and city taxpayers are on course to spend an astronomical $400,000 per migrant. All right, far more than any of the other top 5 cities where asylum seekers land. Oh, really?
You know, there's another thing. This is going to kick New York City heavily in the tourist trade
It will. Right. So far, the fiscal
and
year, there have
also
been
the
an average
financial
of
thing.
9,091 migrants settling in the city per month. You should be freaking cheering this on. You should be cheering on the diversity that's welcoming your city. It's making it more vibrant. It's making it more culturally attuned to the
Hey,
world.
there is a good thing though. At least these migrants will be eating the rats.
Like I said, it's not calling it a stunt anymore. Speaking of stunts, FBI official refutes top GOP claims, all right, on Hunter Biden investigation.
Calling
A
it a surprise.
high-ranking FBI official, all right, in the Hunter Biden investigation refuted key testimony from an IRS whistleblower who claimed the top prosecutor on the case was stymied by the Department of Justice in bringing charges outside Delaware. Thomas Soblinski, the FBI lead on the team investigating Hunter Biden, spoke with House investigators last week, pushing back on testimony from another agent in the case who said now special counsel David Weiss was denied the authority, all right, and limited to bringing charges in districts beyond Delaware. I was constantly aware that David Weiss had the authority, all right, in the United States to bring the charges where the venue presented itself. Solinsky told the GOP investigators in a transcript obtained by the Hill. So, in other words, they're trying to narrowly define something that was never said. Okay,
Yep.
really. All right, and saying this is a top reputation. Put this bastard, all right, under oath in front of everybody, not behind closed doors, in front of everybody to testify, so they can see exactly what this son of a bitch truly said. Because I guarantee you, he confirmed most of what was said by these other people that the DOJ had been trying to prevent this investigation. In fact, there's now evidence coming out that the guy who was the whistleblower, that after he started whistleblowing, they tried to fire him. That they had conversations, all right, about how to get rid of this guy so that they could continue with the plea bargain that fell apart when the judge said, "So what you're saying is this," and basically everyone was like, "Well, wait a minute here." So the whole deal that they were trying to work on, the deal that they've now come back and started prosecuting him on, was on a deal that was supposedly plea bargained away by the DOJ. And then what do the leftists do in the country? See, they're prosecuting Hunter. They're prosecuting Hunter.
No, they're not.
They're doing everything they can, and they will screw this. I guarantee you, whoever they choose as the prosecutor for this case, all right, won't even look like Barney Fife on the stand.
Nope. And it kisses career goodbye as well.
Right? It's an absolute joke. Now, I can hear people now. Nomad, you're just a right wing lunatic hack. I'm going to go attack a right wing
And
person right now.
you keep trying to tell me that the United States does not have an aristocracy and a nobility, and
It doesn't. I'm talking
it
about from a
does.
social perspective. It does not.
It does.
No, it does not.
People like to buy.
Lauren Bobbitt, Bobert, all right, groped Beetlejuice date, all right, in heavy petting session before getting tossed out. Blames behavior on divorce. Look, lady, with all due respect, you've lost all respect when you pulled the "Do you know who I am" card.
With all due respect, meaning none.
Okay, you've lost all respect once you pull the "Do you know who I am?" Go f yourself. When you're doing something this ridiculous, wild woman Lauren Boebert, all right, squeezed in a quick grope session between vaping and loudly singing during her already infamous Beetlejuice viewing, all right, later blaming her inappropriate behavior on her ongoing divorce, where you let this guy basically feel you up in front of cameras that people sit up there and you knew were going to become public, dumbass, all right? I don't care if you've been a lightning rod for the right and you've been standing up for good things, because you have been, and I'll admit that. But at the same time, you disgraced your office and you disgraced yourself.
Yeah, and wow, she looks like a muppet that's been made out of leather.
Right? And they were correct in throwing you out of this venue.
Yeah, if she's behaving indecently, she should get kicked
The
out.
guy stood up there and reached into under her, into her bra, was massaging her chest. Okay, and it got
No, no, actually, he wasn't. She'd stolen his phone. He was trying to get it back.
no. I don't think that's what. I don't think that's what it was. Bobbit cut it off.
God damn it! Give me that phone back.
All right. I don't even know if I really want to do this next story.
Exactly, Mitch. I don't think we do.
Sex bots. And I'm a sexuality expert. Having sex with AI is the future, but China and Russia might exploit robots for surveillance.
Yeah, well, with Chinese and Russian technology, you're going to be able to tell when there's a camera there, aren't you?
First of all, somebody tell me what a sexuality expert is.
A slapper?
I mean, the term professional comes to mind.
Oh, prostitute.
Whether it be in the workplace or at home,
Or gigolo.
supercharged intuitive computers will play an integral role in our day-to-day activities. All right. A therapist told the U.S. Sun. Hold on, let me finish this.
Hold on.
All right, go ahead.
He's right. Yeah, supercharged computers will play a greater and greater role in our day-to-day lives if you're rich. Seriously.
A therapist told the U.S. Sun his fears about patients relying too much on AI-powered counselors, with concerns growing of them becoming too attached to their virtual confidant. The same problems are envisioned amongst those specializing in sexuality, and most specifically, or people falling in love with robots. As AI tech improves, so too will the experience of the interaction.
So, your boyfriend, is he Protestant, Catholic, Methodist, MS-DOS?
Sexuality expert Kwamna Bohawani, Boijwani, all right, who has been investigating advances in AI and tech and how it could change relationships and intimacy, envisions all manners of problems unless there are some clear guidelines as to who has programmed the software.
What is it with this world now? We get these people, these high-paying, stupid, pointless fucking jobs that are absolutely unnecessary. Seriously.
AI and sex robots are all fun and games until some pervert has a child robot whose AI is smart enough to know it should be crying.
Yeah, just wait till the first case of murder by fucking sex bot when somebody exposes a few wires in a certain area.
Oh my god. Meanwhile, over in Japan, where all this began, one man's sex doll museum pushing limits in Japan's subculture scene. Yashir
Am I the
Yashio
hold on. Looking at that picture, am I the only one here who wants to invest in a flamethrower and a ticket to Japan?
Yashio, Japan. Japan holds a reputation for some of the world's most eccentric and offbeat subcultures. One man is pushing the boundaries by transforming his modest two-story home into a private sex doll museum.
I've
Located
said this before and I'll say it again. The Japanese are a nation of fucking perverts.
located just outside of Tokyo, the Yashiro Hyokan, which loosely translates to Yashio Adult Museum in English, showcases Yoshi. All right, I can't pronounce this guy's name. I'm not even bother trying. Personal collection of love dolls, with every inch of his house meticulously arranged down to the smallest detail.
Yoshitaka Hayodo,
Uh,
I think.
the 49-year
Uh,
old's home is in the suburbs of Yashio, the Satama prefecture. Not only contains dolls of various positions and outfits, but also a mesmerizing assortment of other erotica, creepy exhibits, all right, and antique collectibles. No.
no. Like I said, ticket to Japan, flamethrower.
uh,
I mean, one of his sex dolls is a fucking skeleton with a wig on it. Look,
I just
in the
don't.
centre of the picture, there's a skeleton with
I
a
see
fucking
it.
wig on it.
For those who want to revisit this, here you go, right there. Um, yeah. No. Just no.
Hey, I'll tell you something, mind. If I'm ever out one night and I get beamed up to a flying saucer, for an examination, I'm going to beg them not to put me back.
Just no. Meanwhile, back in the United States, where sanity reigns,
Yeah, right.
we get the story from the smoking gun. Man pleads to AK-47 threat over pizza pie.
Mitch, I bet that guy's home actually glows brightly if an infrared light is aimed at it.
A Tennessee man has pled guilty to pointing an AK-47 rifle at a Little Caesars employees because his $6 pepperoni pizza was taking too long to cook. Record show. In a plea deal, Charles Dottie, 64, agreed last month to cop to his dangerous gunplay at a restaurant in Knoxville. Dottie, who is charged with multiple felony counts, is scheduled to be sentenced on September 29th after pleading guilty to 4 aggravated assault counts. As a result, Dottie's blind plea and length of manner of service of the sentence will be solely determined by criminal court judge, according to a prosecution spokesperson. Police say that Dottie became incensed after being told that his pizza would take 10 minutes to prepare. Dottie demanded a free order of Little Caesars Crazy Bread before briefly leaving the restaurant, which is about 5 miles from his residence. When Dottie, pictured above, returned to Little Caesars, he was carrying an AK-47, which he pointed at
Don't
a
tell me. And he said, say hello to my little friend.
which he pointed at a female worker who was on her first day on the job while demanding his order. When other employees sought to leave the restaurant, he said, "Where the hell do you think you're going?" Oh my god! No, I'm laughing because nobody was hurt. Okay, aside from some jackass because I can see getting frightened out of your wits having an AK-47 pointed at
Yeah.
you, especially as some
I've
young
got to ask GLM
impressionable
something.
person, coming in for a first day of work.
GLM, what is a riffle?
A rifle? Is that what you're saying?
No, RIFFLE. That spells riffle.
Well, it is Tennessee. You have to understand the logic. Oh my goodness.
I thought in Tennessee it was a raffle.
Well, how would you spell that?
REHFLE.
Oh,
Raffle.
the raffle. Oh my god. Dude,
At least when I try to do the accent badly, I must
the
admit,
first
I
thing, the
made it
first thing
sound
you,
like a man. You
yeah.
made it sound like a homosexual.
Anyway, um, the one thing I can say is what they need to do with this guy is they need
Give
a
him a pizza.
no, they need to take this guy and put him in a mental hospital. This guy's got a mental problem. If he thinks a $6 pizza, all right, taking 10 minutes is too long, that he has to sit up there and point a rifle at, like somehow it's going to cook faster.
Oh, fucking hell. A pizza, preparation's longer than 10 minutes. And delivery, looking at least half an hour or even 45 minutes, depending upon where you live.
Well, he lived 5 miles away, okay, which meant took him longer to go home, get his rifle, come back, all right, than it took for the pizza to be ready.
Basically, it cost him more in fuel than it did the
Right?
pizza.
I mean, it's just
And then,
unbelievable.
as GL pointed out, the cost of the ammo. Might as well just have made his own fucking pizza.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there. Final story of the day. Bear invades Florida garage, eats vegan ice cream.
Objection, Your Honour. It's a vegan product. It's not ice cream.
A black bear invaded
A bear of colour.
a black bear invaded a Florida family's garage, got into the freezer, and feasted out on pizza, burger patties, bread, and vegan ice. You have burger patties in the same thing where you have vegan ice cream. What kind of lunatics are living in this place?
They don't say that it's actual meat.
They didn't say, they said burger patties. To me, that indicates it's meat. Conrad Uppenhauer said he realized he had forgotten to close the garage door on his North Naples home, at which he lives with his parents. When he attempted to use a smartphone app to shut the door, he got an error message telling him that something was in the way. Okay, are we going to be able to see anything with this? I just want to see the poor bear.
You saw a clip of it there. Yeah.
Let's see if we can find more pictures of the bear. I'm just looking. I want to see the bear.
We want the bear.
Come on, show me the bear. It just shows the bear walking around. I want to see the bear right in the fridge. I gotta question this guy though, where he sit up there has it's actually coffee flavored ice cream with boba in it. What the hell's boba? Apparently, it's really good.
Oh, I know what boba is. It's that fucking bounty hunter from Star Wars.
But how could you say it's vegan?
That's what the Sarlacc did to him. It turned him into ice cream.
I don't think that makes it vegan, though, does it? Boba Fett ice cream?
Possibly not.
All right,
what the
folks.
Fuck's that Duckberry?
What's a what?
Oh, he's burying toothbrushes, right?
Oh, you were looking at the.
I was
watching
the advertisement.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Okay, we've had enough of this. That's all I've got for today, folks. I hope that you enjoyed the show. All right, thanks for coming out, Mr. Batman. I do appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Visiting us.
I don't hope you enjoyed the show. I think it's your own fault for turning up. Now, as you've heard, the show is over. See you lot, just bugger off, go back to your lives. We're done here. You need to stick around at all. Go on, sod off.
And we're
a
done.
lot of yous.